to another episode of Marketing 101 for Chiropractors, where we keep you ahead of the curve, attracting more new patients and growing your business. Now, here's your host, Dr. D himself.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Marketing 101. I got a really special guest this week, Charles Gaudet from Predictable Profits. He hit some great points when he reached out to me and said, hey, I think I'd be a good guest. And I think this episode is going to be absolutely fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Charles. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about how'd you get into all this business stuff? What did you do first and how'd you get here?
Some people like to think that entrepreneurs are born. That definitely was not the case for me. I started my first business at the age of 4, and that's largely because my dad was an entrepreneur. He worked every waking hour of every day. So I really didn't get to know him until the 3rd grade. But when I did see my dad, he would tell me, kid, if you ever want to make it in this world, you got to be your own. You got to start your own business. And, that's the way that he started to justify why he worked these long hours. So like every kid, I was starving for my father's love and attention, and I decided I'd start a business. And that served me well, because not only did I get what I was looking for from my dad, but at the same time, I realized that I really did enjoy it. And so I've never had a traditional, quote unquote, real job. After graduating college, I started another business nominated by Ernst & Young as being one of the nation's best seed stage companies. By 24, I created my first multi-million-dollar business. And then after that, I just continued to build and grow companies until 2010. That's when somebody offered to pay me to help them grow their business. And I started Predictable Profits. We've taken many, many companies, the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list. Recently took a company from 950,000 to 66 million in about 7 years. Just with the work that we've done, it's received a number of press from across the world. And it's usually people are asking, how do I grow faster, more predictably, and less dependent on myself? And so it's kind of what brought me to where I am today, and the short and sweet of it, I guess.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure you'll have some great tips for small businesses like most doctors and medium-sized businesses as well. So that's great too. Very much like my story. My dad, entrepreneur, had his own businesses, didn't speak a lick of English, and taught me you got to work hard if you want to get anywhere. So that's a great fundamental principle.
What country did it come from? Because I want to tell you something that I just learned not too long ago. What country did it come from?
Italy. Yep.
Italy. Got it. So I'm sitting in South Africa, and I'm at a table having lunch with these 2 people that I didn't know who they were, but they were also Americans who just happened to come together at this networking event. We're having lunch, and next thing I know, black card. They go to pay for their part of the lunch. And so I knew at this point, okay, they're largely successful. One guy came from Cuba, another one came from Poland. Both of them became top of their industry. One was the number 1 most successful corporate photographer in the world. The other one owns more daycare centers than anybody else in the state of Florida. And after his first year, he made $1 million, never made less than that every year thereafter. But the one thing that they said to me, which was interesting, is they said, when we got to America, we were always told that it's easy to make $1 million. And so when we came to America, there was never this idea that we would fail. There was not a plan B like so many Americans have, as this plan B. And there's always this balance of failure. For us, we never believed that we could fail. And so we believe that that's why we're so successful, because it was always just looking at the opportunities and taking advantage of the opportunities everywhere we can go. But Americans are a little different. Americans look at the opportunities and immediately look at all the different ways they could fail. And so it's no surprise to me. I'm imagining your dad was successful. I know you're clearly very successful as well, and probably very influenced, I'm guessing, by that of your dad.
Yeah, that's why I know you hit a heartstring there when you said that. I was like, yeah, my dad, missing them because they worked, 150 hours a week, or I don't know what he did. But yeah, instilled in you that this is the only way to make it. but there are other ways, and
Oh,
I think
sure.
you and I were trained that way to just be like, it's just hard work. There's no cheats. I wish I had a cheat code for you, kid. I
Yeah.
barely speak English. You go figure this out. So,
Yeah, right.
and he always joked. He's like, I got all the tools. He did construction and built homes and did all that stuff. He's like, I got a garage full of tools. You don't need to go to school. You got all the tools. You're already 10 steps ahead of me when I got here. And I was like, don't worry, Dad. I'm sticking to academics, and I will I don't like digging these shovels and pouring the cement, but that's what I did when I was 13 years old. So he did all
Amazing.
that stuff. That's great. So, I mean, obviously you're helping big companies, medium companies scaling to, I mean, 7, 8, 10 figure things. But today what we want to do is help doctors. I mean, the times are shifting so fast with everything as far as business, marketing, computers, AI, everything is just changing very fast. And doctors are just plugging away, wearing all their hats, or business owners, whatever it may be. What are you seeing right now as the biggest pain point for businesses that maybe you're trying to start up or even have been in it for about 5, 10 years? What's the biggest pain points that they're calling you up saying, hey, Charles, what do you got for me? How can you help me? How do we take this to the next level?
Got it. Great question. Well, speaking specifically to chiropractors, right? Um, a chiropractor goes to school because they ultimately want to be the best doctor they possibly can be. And, I'm a huge fan of chiropractic medicine. I go every week. I don't think I'd be standing here talking with you in the fashion that I am if it wasn't for all the benefits that my chiropractor has given me by making me pain free. Right. So I'm a huge fan. The challenge, though, is that they don't teach you how to run a business. Right. And so what ends up happening is the doctors go into chiropractor school because they want to be the best chiropractor they possibly can be. Then at some point they decide, you know what? I want to follow that American dream and own my own practice too. So they turn around and they start the practice. But they have this belief that as long as they deliver the best service possible, that the clients will come and they'll stay and all that other jazz. And it's not until after a few sleepless nights and a lot of grind that they realize there's got to be something more than just having a great, doing a great adjustment and so forth. And there's this mind shift where they go from being a chiropractor to actually being a business owner and to start thinking more like a CEO. And over time, and part of creating that highly valuable practice is going to come more so in the way that they think about being that of a business owner and understanding what drives buying decisions and why they should choose their practice over all the dozens and dozens and dozens of other practices out there and how they're going to get attention and all that other jazz. See, most chiropractic offices have gotten their business to the point where it's at right now because of hard work, word of mouth, and referrals. But then beyond that, they just really don't know what to do. Right. So what do I do? And somehow somebody said, oh, you need to take out some ads. So, they go, okay, so I don't know how much money to spend. I'm not sure what to do, but let's run some ads. And then just a simple act of running ads, maybe they got some business, but it wasn't effective enough. And then they're like, oh, well, no, you have to be on social media. So they're like, okay, they go on social media, but they really didn't have a strategy other than I'm supposed to be on social media. So I got to be on social media. And it's just constant struggle of trial and error, and this frustration and overwhelm because you've got so many different people telling you need to do a certain thing and they try it. But they just seem to get this feeling of wasting time and wasting money. And so, at the very beginning is this understanding of, look, before anything else, what really makes your practice unique and different from everybody else? And so leveraging that, because you can have the best ad strategy in the world, you can have the best social media strategy in the world, but our buyers are researchers or patients are researchers. They want to work with the best firm or the best practice that is in the area. So what makes you that much different? And if you think about it from a buyer's standpoint, right? So let's go through that buyer's journey a little bit. Somehow, somewhere, I've gotten to an accident. or I've hurt myself. And now I have to turn around and I need to find a chiropractor. Well, if you're like most people, you're probably going to go to Google and you're going to type in, chiropractor near me or something along those lines. And you're going to get a whole bunch of people that show up. Now the overwhelm begins. Well, I see 10 people in my area, all that have that, promise that they can make me pain-free and everything else. They pull up a whole bunch of websites. They don't know what to do from there. So they ultimately go, okay, whichever one has got the most reviews at the highest rated, I guess I'm going to go with them because they seem to be the ones that work. Or they'll go on social and they'll go to their neighborhood group page and be like, anybody recommend a chiropractor for me? I hurt myself, something along those lines.
Yep.
And so, that's the game that people are playing. But, I'm sure, you probably have a ton of different tips and a ton of different strategies yourself from all your years of experience doing this that you can help people differentiate themselves from that initial step. But it's really that initial step that is the hardest. How do you take somebody who's trying to figure out which firm is going to be best for me and really call them out specifically? So when they get to your website, they're like, oh, thank God, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And, you also see a lot of chiropractic offices that turn around and they go, you know what? We help everybody with every problem. And, where, it is what it is. And it's like, well, that might be good to, that you can help a lot of people, but you'll find that everybody tends to think their situation is unique and different. And the more you can hone in a niche closer to their specific pain point or concern, the higher your conversion rate and the more you can lead in that one specific area.
Agreed. Yeah, great points. That's fantastic. Standing outside of the crowd, when you throw out a big fish net, you think you're going to catch more fish. But the biggest thing I get with a lot of the clients that I work with and chiropractors, and even my friends and colleagues, is that, hey man, I keep getting tires, license plates, metal cans. I'm like, yeah, because you created that machine, you created that problem in your practice. I mean, there's no strategy behind what you're doing. So I'm glad you said that. And the big fish net sounds like a good idea. But honestly, it ends up being a waste of time, money, and effort because you're cycling through a lot of, I call them dead leads.
You're right.
And that's the issue with that. So that's great. What's the next step? So you said differentiating yourself. That's great. That's going to leave a lot of the listeners with something to think about. But second, once you differentiate yourself, how do you capture that? You nailed it perfectly in 2025. That's exactly what people do to find a dentist, chiropractor, PT, whatever it may be. There might be some other referral back end ways where they might call their medical doctor first.
Yeah.
And then there's some things where we lose those leads because they refer them for medicine or they refer them for steroid or maybe directly to PT. That's fine. But once we've got our niche, once we've got our unique selling proposition, what is the way to then position ourselves to catch the attention of our ideal clients?
Got it. So great question. I had a conversation actually with a $500 million CEO, and he says to me, well, Charlie, we do marketing. And I said, you can't do marketing. And he says, what? You can't do marketing. It's like me saying I do doctor. I can't do doctoring either, right? Like, you can't do marketing. And he says, well, what do you mean by that? I said, marketing is a function. It's a function of how you create demand, how you capture that demand, and then how you nurture that demand. And I said, so let's actually look at things with a little more context. How effectively are you at creating demand? And he goes, I don't know. I'm like, okay, how effective are you at capturing that demand? Oh, we generate X amount of leads, thousands of leads per day, blah, blah. Okay, got it. What about nurturing that demand? How effective are you at your ability to nurture demand? He goes, I don't know the answer to that. So 2/3 of the entire marketing process, you're actually operating in the dark. And now you're wondering why you're struggling. And so, it's interesting because then he said, well, everybody here is, they're not Harvard grad, but Ivy Leagues and, blah, blah. What does that mean? Do I have to fire everybody? Nobody's talking like that. But I think it's because the way that we've approached things years ago have changed so much in the ways that buyers do business today with the internet, with AI, with all these other things, right? But capturing demand is all the stuff that goes on before they become known. It's what I call anonymous folks, right? It's all the different ways in which I'm visiting the different websites, I'm gathering information. We know that buyers are researchers. In 2019, the average person looked at 17 different sources of information before making a buying decision. In 2021, that went up to 27 different sources. In 2020, right now, it's about 36 different sources of information before making a buying decision. They're going through this cycle of exploration and evaluation. So at the very beginning, when we look at creating demand, we want to just be places. We want to be where people are looking. So that may be social, that may be making sure that you're optimized for search, and then what's now known as AEO, which is optimized for AI, so that when people are looking for you, that they can find you. But then we know that buyers are researchers, and they're going to leave your website and they're going to look at your competition because they want to make smart decisions. So during that time, you want to make sure that you're retargeting these people. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the term retargeting, if you've ever been to a website and you've left and come back, you're going to see the same ads from that company following you all over the place. That's called retargeting. All the major ad platforms offer this retargeting, and it is very, very inexpensive. One of the most inexpensive ways to actually do any advertising. But you just show up over and over and over again, and familiarity helps to create trust, and familiarity also helps to create that demand. As well, in that create demand phase, you have to ask yourself, what's the type of information that my buyers are looking for to feel like they're making a smart decision? And so you're going to want to educate the buyer. So have multiple different pages and resources on the website to be able to educate the buyer so that they feel comfortable knowing that you understand their problem, you understand their situation, and that by working with you, it's going to make me feel that much more comfortable. Then we move into the next phase, which is then capturing that demand. That's when they go from anonymous to known. Maybe it's as simple as, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call your practice. Or maybe it's as simple as you have different, what we call lead magnets, or ways in which somebody can turn around and enter their information in exchange for something back in return, whether that is a checklist or whether that is some sort of document, whatever that might be, ebook, something along those lines. They get something in return. And then now that you have that information, the nurture demand phase is, how do you stay in front of them now that you have that information? If they haven't become a buyer yet, how do you stay in front of them? What are some other tips that you can offer them? Some other advice, some other education that doesn't just spam their inbox, but actually gives them information that's seen of value. You get those three areas right, and you begin to fill your sales pipeline with buyer ready leads that are confident in choosing to do business with somebody like you. Now, one of the things about chiropractors is that it is also an emotional decision. It's depending on somebody's situation, if they're in pain, if they're uncomfortable or whatnot. If they've never been to a chiropractor before and they hear all these myths and whatnot, they want to feel safe with the person that they're choosing to do business with. So, use your iPhone, have somebody in the office, shoot some videos, walk them through what a typical appointment looks like, walk them through what some of the adjustments look like, have some of the patients that are willing to share their experience, talk about that experience, because that will get the prospects who haven't met you yet, they'll start to like you a little bit more. Highlight the other people in your office, the staff, the other doctors and so forth. Bring them into the conversation. Humanize yourself a little bit. Don't be afraid to show a little personality and laughter and be light, if that's part of your brand, right? Humanize yourself. All of that helps to create an affinity and some type of preference. I mean, there are so many different ways in which you can get in front of people. There are ways in which you can get in front of people through Facebook advertising, through Google advertising. There's a number of different layers within Google advertising. You could do this through Bing. ChatGPT will soon be offering the ability to take out ads through their AI platform and whatnot. And all of that are ways to stay in front. Again, social media is another way too. There's referrals in which, you can ask your clients to refer other patients and create an active referral program as opposed to a passive referral program. An active one means you have an actual strategy and you're encouraging people to go out there and spread the word in exchange for whatever that might be, a discount or a gift. There's several chiropractors that might put together a little bag of supplements, or maybe they have additional services like red light therapy or whatnot that they could say, look, send somebody and we'll go ahead and we'll do it that way. But it's just being very deliberate and very strategic, and not just letting things happen by chance. One thing, so we actually worked with a company. They did a preceptor. They helped nurses get placed for preceptorship. Mm-hmm. And so one of the strategies that we used is we said, look, why don't you have your office staff encourage these students, these nurses, to write a review. Now, you can't tell them, give me a 5-star review, because that would be unethical. But if you know that these people had a good experience, say, hey, look, would you write us a review? And for anybody that wrote a review, they would get a benefit for writing a review. But the person that asked, the person in the office that was really in charge of getting as many reviews as possible, we said, give them about $25 for every review they're able to get. Give them $25, incentivize them to make sure that they're going out there and trying to get as many reviews. They got so many reviews. They became the most highly reviewed firm in the entire country, so much so that every competitor in the whole country combined doesn't even match this one company's reviews. And the result of being the most reviewed is it becomes this exponential impact. People want to work with the best. Now they have so many reviews, the competitors can't keep up. They just can't keep up at all, because the company is growing completely geometrically, just massive. We helped a massage therapist out in New York City. Same thing. Let's make sure we drive you so you are the most highly reviewed massage therapist in New York City. Her company has just completely just taken off. She's number one in all New York City because she's the most reviewed by far. Because at the very basic level, if you're the most highly reviewed, people by default assume, well, you must be the best. Just like in Amazon, you're going to go to shop on Amazon. You're not sure what product should I choose, but all of a sudden you see one that has more 5-star reviews than another one. It's like, well, I don't know. I don't know which one seems to be the best, but I'm going to lean towards this one because it seems like everybody else tends to agree.
Yeah. Reviews is huge. I think reviews are the most important point on Google for sure. 100%. And Yelp.
I would agree.
So, and Yelp is Apple as well. So that's really important too. Great. You brought up, this is great stuff, by the way, Charles. The one thing you brought up was AI, which is super interesting. I haven't heard the acronym for SEO for AI, which is AEO. So that's, I learned something new right there. Tell us a little bit about this. I am completely perplexed. I don't know if I'm getting too old or what, with AI and how it actually is operating in the back. Because when I use ChatGPT, and I've been using it since its inception, the answers it gives me are good, but they're also tailored to what I've told it in the past. So it's always introducing it based on your experience in chiropractic for 18 years and what you've done with other clients. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't ask you that. I asked you a direct question. And it's almost like it's trying to please me a little bit, but that's off the topic. Where is AI going for small business and medium-sized businesses, and how do we rank on it?
Got it. So great question. What I do, by the way, with ChatGPT is I actually, in the custom instructions, I make sure that I give it specific instructions to challenge me and not agree with me and all that other fun stuff. And be very blunt and honest. There are times when ChatGPT will drop the F-bomb on me now. And it'll just swear because it is so direct and blunt. But that's what I asked it to do. Like, cut all the filters and just tell me exactly, what it is. And I tend to get a little bit better there. But you know what, AI, here's what most people don't see. And as far as I know, nobody's talking about. We hear about AI disrupting industries. And AI is disrupting every single industry out there. There's zero exceptions that I have seen. But where AI is disrupting people's businesses is in the place that they don't realize they're being disrupted. In fact, they started being disrupted as of January 2025, and nobody even knew it. In fact, right now, what's going on is people are saying the economy. They're blaming the economy right now. If they're not getting the amount of leads that they should be getting, they're blaming the economy, and they're saying something's changed. I'm not sure what, but I think the economy is really starting to hit us right now. But the economy, if you look at actually the real numbers, the economy's doing great. So it's not the economy. So what's actually going on? Well, take a look at your Google Analytics and look at your traffic. And you're going to see on average that 60% of your traffic has disappeared from January until now.
Yep.
60%. Well, what happened? Why? Well, that's because these search engines are giving more preference towards content. And this is through AI optimization and AI overviews, right? So AI overviews, and then you have other competitors like Perplexity and whatnot that have, they're just not showing websites, they're giving you information, right? More and more people are using tools like ChatGPT to say, find me a chiropractor, in my area. And then I just got finished speaking to a group of business owners, and we had this very discussion that I'm sharing with you right now. And a few weeks ago, ChatGPT dropped Atlas. And for those of you who don't know what Atlas is, it's a new browser that's been released by ChatGPT so that now you don't have to use Chrome or Safari or Firefox or any of the other ones that you're using. You can actually just use Atlas. What does Atlas do? Based on everything it already knows about you, it'll search the internet to get you the answers that you want. So when you go to choose, I need a chiropractor, whereas before you used to have to do all this research all across the board to find the best chiropractor for you. Now ChatGPT is going to turn around and say, based on everything I know about you and your preferences and your likes and blah, 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 here are going to be the top 3 chiropractors that I would recommend. They're not going to take a website. They're actually going to bring you to, they're going to tell you who to actually use. See, ChatGPT or AI is disrupting the buyer's journey for everybody. And that's what most people don't realize, is that AI is disrupting the buyer's journey. How are you going to play with AI? Here's the thing. I spoke about this actually earlier today with another client. I am very, very excited and bullish about the future. And I think that the future looks wonderful and great for some people. For other people, this is going to be a challenge. Back when the internet disrupted industry, what happened was websites came out and they're like, okay, I don't have a website yet, but maybe I should get one. But it took actually a long time, relatively speaking, for really it getting to a point where if you did not have a website, then you just didn't exist. It took a long time to get to that point. Years. People just didn't feel comfortable putting their information. They didn't know how to search. Everything had to be done on a desktop because we didn't have mobile back in the day. So it just took a long time for that disruption to actually happen. Now we're seeing things happen lightning fast. And my prediction is at some point next year, what will end up happening is that there's going to be a large technology innovation that comes out. And we're going to see this massive divide. Those chiropractors that are optimized for AI and AEO, they're going to be found. So when somebody uses their tools and they say, hey, help me find whatever, they're going to be found. And they say, we recommend, you use this doctor and blah, blah, blah. But everybody else, it will be like they don't exist. They will have disappeared. You won't be able to find them unless you specifically look for them. And so you're going to see the people that are listening to what we're talking about now and start taking that action. Those are the people that are going to be found, and they're going to have so much business. It's going to be it'll be like Christmas morning every morning. But for everybody else, they just won't be found. There'll be this giant void. And so when we hear about politicians and different experts talking about UBI, universal business income, and making that as a suggestion because they think AI is going to end up, having several people unemployed. Well, it's not necessarily because AI is going to take over their jobs. It's because their businesses that they're working for will go out of business because they haven't adapted or evolved to the ways that AI has changed certain things. It's not just the buyer's journey, though that is going to be the biggest one for the chiropractors, is that of the buyer's journey. And they need to be able to adapt to that. And so when we talk about like AEO and different things like that, how do we optimize for AI? Think about it in terms of educating the buyer. If whatever it is that your buyer is actually looking for, the different questions that they're asking that your front desk people are hearing over the phone, have an article about that, record a video of answering that specific question, bring the prospects into the office through video and through conversation, all that other stuff, that you can then share on the website, because you're giving AI more and more information to be able to say, oh, okay, this is actually what you do. This is what makes you different. Now I know who I can match you with. But if you look at most chiropractic websites right now, a lot of them still look like they were built out in the 90s. They probably built it once and never touched it again. They offer very little information. They sound like everybody else. And so as far as these AI engines are concerned, they're like, well, I can't tell you from everybody else, so I guess we're going to put you aside, and we're going to look at some of these other ones that have given me more information so I can match them with the right person. And, we're seeing that people want what's known as a rep-free sales experience. Now, what does that mean, a rep-free sales experience? It means that the consumers don't want to have to pick up the phone to call the office in order to make a decision if they want to work with you. They don't. We know that from research from McKinsey. We know that from research from Forrester, that the trends are moving, that people do not want to call the office in order to get information. They don't want to call the office to find out how much you charge. They don't want to call the office to find out if you take insurance. They don't want to call the office to find out if you can help them with herniated discs. They don't want to have to call the office. Heck, Gen Z and millennials don't even pick up the phone and call their own mothers. They text them, right? They text them.
Yeah.
And so we need to be able to provide all this information to the buyer on the website right now that not only feeds the AI, but helps the buyer make a decision through a rep-free type of experience. It's also going to force us to be a little bit more creative with the way that we market. So whereas right now, so much of our marketing is done digitally, we may end up having to look at different ways through partnerships so that we're not dependent on AI having to just bring my company in front of other folks. We might have to look at doing some more of the traditional offline type advertising in order to put yourself in front of people that otherwise might not see you. We're going to have to be creative. And one of the things that's really exciting about this is that there's going to be a big advantage for people that are willing to think out of the box, to be a little bit more strategic. And just the fact that people are listening to this episode, are giving them an advantage. Because most of your competitors, they're not thinking about this stuff. They're not thinking about what advantage can they get to grow their practice. No. They're kind of like comfortable in status quo. Those are going to be the people that are going to be hit the hardest. And right now, because so much of the market is not sophisticated enough to know the changes that need to be made, all you have to do is make just a few changes to be better than your competitors, and you can have a massive advantage. So we're not talking about like something massive right now. Most people haven't even figured out how to use ChatGPT beyond just, write me an email.
Most people don't have their Google business profile set up with reviews yet. So,
That's a good point.
So this is great stuff. Now, what should we do after this podcast? Do we reach out to Predictable Profits? Do we go to ChatGPT and be like, hey, how do I optimize myself for AEO? Or do you have a quick tip for us right now on how to get in? What does that even mean? How do you optimize yourself on the AI programs?
So that's funny. We built our own bots, all trained on our IP, and that's so we're like way geeks when it comes to this stuff, right? But the easiest thing to do, so I would go to I don't recommend relying on any one AI tool. There's multiple there. So if you want to be the best and you want to be a little bit, take advantage of something much greater, you'd run the same prompt on ChatGPT. Claude is really good. So that's CLAUDE.ai for those who aren't aware. So ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini has some great context. Perplexity is another one that I would do. Now I have a lot more tools than that, but those are going to be the big ones that I would start with. And I would run a prompt similar to this. I would say, visit my website at whatever that is, whatever your website is. Visit my website at, and look at my website as if you are my ideal buyer. My ideal buyer is, and explain who the ideal buyer is, and look at the different pages of my website for information that will help you make a purchase decision. What are all the ways in which I am inadvertently preventing my buyer from selecting me, right? So they want to see this is all the information that is missing. And then say, then go and say, act as an expert in AEO and other AI optimization techniques. What are the keywords that my ideal buyer will be looking at in order to make a buying decision? Based on everything that you've seen on my website so far, what are all the ways that I need to optimize my website in order to take advantage of the latest AEO strategies and techniques? And if you did that, you're going to have an advantage that's greater than 95% of the people out there.
There you go. And you're running those across multiple AI tools to get different perspectives or to feed the machine.
You want to see which one's going to be best, because everyone has different perspectives.
Great.
Depending on the prompt, like everyone has their strengths. So ChatGPT has been a leader for a long time, but a lot of times Claude is better than them. Or it could be Gemini. So what I'll do is I'll have everything out there, and then I'll synthesize that information into, I'll see which one was the best. Let's pretend for a minute that Gemini is the best in this case. So I'll say, okay, Gemini is the best. I'll synthesize the information from all the other AI tools. I'll go back to Gemini, and I'll continue to add that information into context in Gemini. And then, this way it continues to, I educate it, gives me better output, and then so forth. So the last thing about AI, unless you have another question for me, but the last thing about AI is that, so my son, he's now 19 years old, and he's attending the University of Florida. And I said to him something that never in a million years would have anybody ever said anything like this to their son since the dawn of time. And I was like, kid, unlike when I went to school, you don't need to know the answers anymore. You don't need to know the answers. Your advantage in life is not going to come from knowing the answers to things. And he goes, huh? What are you talking about, Dad? I go, his name is Branson. I go, Branson, the advantage is going to go for those people that know to ask the questions that nobody else knows to ask. So never take these tools, don't just use it once with one prompt and let it spit out and assume that that's the end. Push it. Ask it different questions. Use different angles. Think more creatively and critically. If you can get to that next level and ask the questions that your competitors don't even think to be asking right now, your advantage gets exponentially greater.
Yep. I like it. Your answers are only as good as the questions you ask. And I think that has been from the beginning of time. So it hasn't changed. It's just now called AI. This has been fantastic. This has been fantastic. Predictable profits. I highly recommend any chiros that are probably in the verge of $1 million plus practices looking to scale. This Charles is going to work best with you. Or if you just need some tips, he's got some great guides on predictable profits. So check it out. This was awesome. I think we're going to do this again. But in the meantime, I really appreciate your time.
Hey, together we're better. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, and leave a rating. It helps get our podcast out to more listeners. Also, join Marketing 101 for Chiropractors on Facebook or visit us at enricod.com for more information on growing and scaling your business.